Then the entire council took Jesus to Pilate, the Roman governor. They began to state their case. This man has been leading our people astray by telling them not to pay their taxes to the Roman government and by claiming he is the Messiah, a king.
Then Pilate asked him, saying, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered him and said, "It is as you say." So Pilate said to the chief priest and the crowd, "I find no fault in this man." But they were the more furious, saying, "He stirs up the people, teaching throughout all Judea, beginning from Galilee to this place."
When Pilate heard this, he asked if the man was a Galilean. Finding that he was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem during these days. Herod was very glad to see Jesus. For a long time he had wanted to see him because he had heard about him and was hoping to see some miracle performed by him. So he kept asking him questions, but Jesus did not answer him.
And the chief priests and scribes were standing there, accusing him vehemently. And Herod with his soldiers, after treating him with contempt and mocking him, dressed him in a gorgeous robe and sent him back to Pilate.
That very day Herod and Pilate became friends. Previously they had been enemies. Pilate called together the chief priests and the leaders and the people and said to them, "You have brought me this man as one who misleads the people. But in fact, after examining him in your presence, I have found no grounds to charge this man with those things you accuse him of."
"No, neither did Herod, for I sent you back to him, and indeed nothing deserving of death has been done by him. I will therefore chastise him and release him. For it was necessary for him to release one to them at the feast."
But they cried out all together, saying, "Away with this man, and release for us Barabbas."
Who had been thrown into prison for a certain rebellion made in the city and for murder.
Pilate argued with them because he wanted to release Jesus, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" For the third time he demanded, "Why? What crime has he committed? I have found no reason to sentence him to death, so I will have him flogged, and then I will release him."
But they kept up the pressure, demanding with loud voices that he be crucified, and their voices won out. So Pilate decided to grant their demand and release the one they were asking for, who had been thrown into prison for rebellion and murder, but he handed Jesus over to their will. As they led him away, they seized Simon, a Cyrenian, who was coming from the country, and laid the cross on him to carry behind Jesus.
And following him was a large crowd of the people and of women who were mourning and lamenting him. But Jesus, turning to them, said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, stop weeping for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children.
For the days are coming when they will say, 'Fortunate indeed are the women who are childless, the wombs that have not borne a child, and the breasts that have never nursed.' People will beg for the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and plead with the hills, 'Bury us.' For if these things are done when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?"
There were also 2 others, criminals, led with him to be put to death. And when they had come to the place called Calvary, there they crucified him and the criminals, one on the right hand and the other on the left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." And they divided his garments and cast lots.
The crowd watched, and the leaders scoffed. "He saved others," they said.
Let him save himself, if this is the Christ of God, his chosen one.
The soldiers also mocked him. They came offering him sour wine and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." An inscription was above him, "This is the King of the Jews."
One of the criminals hanging beside him scoffed, "So you are the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself and us too."
But the other answered and rebuking him, said, "Do you not even fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation?"
We're punished justly because we're getting back what we deserve for the things we did. But this man has done nothing wrong.
Then he said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said to him, Assuredly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.
By this time it was about noon, and darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. The light from the sun was gone, and suddenly the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn down the middle.
And Jesus, crying out with a loud voice, said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Having said this, he breathed his last.
When the Roman officer overseeing the execution saw what had happened, he worshipped God and said, Surely this man was innocent.
And all the crowds who came together for this spectacle, when they observed what had happened, began to return, beating their breasts. And all his acquaintances and the women who accompanied him from Galilee were standing at a distance, seeing these things.
There was a good and righteous man named Joseph, a member of the Sanhedrin, who had not agreed with their plan and action. He was from Arimathea, a Judean town, and was looking forward to the kingdom of God.
This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. And he took it down, he wrapped it in a linen cloth, and laid him in a tomb cut into the rock, where no one had ever lain.
It was the preparation day, and the Sabbath was about to begin. The women who had came with him from Galilee followed along and observed the tomb and how his body was placed.
Then they went home and prepared spices and ointments to anoint his body.
And on the Sabbath they rested accordingly to the commandment.